Hi, I'm Kimba Dunham, a journalist, New York resident, and an alumna of the A Better Chance program. I'm extremely excited to launch the Virtually Speaking series, which is designed to strengthen the Better Chance Alumni Network. The subject of today's interview is alumnus Ellis Rowe, who graduated from Andover in 1970. Ellis is the president and founder of Horizon Group, a boutique real estate development firm, and a longtime president of Mars, one of the largest food companies in the world. Today, we're going to hear about Ellis's experience with the A Better Chance program and how it's impacted his life. In keeping with the title of this series, Ellis is joining me virtually from Jacksonville, Florida. Good afternoon, Ellis. So why don't we jump right into the questions? If you had to describe in one thought the most important and enduring contribution from your career experience, what would that be?
And I was fortunate to have so many great supporters throughout my career. And that makes it sound like it was easy, and it wasn't. It wasn't easy for them to perhaps support me at that stage of businesses. I was like many, I was sort of a one only. It's easy to look at someone and sort of stereotype them. And I mean, I learned, I think early, that I need to try and change paradigm, change the dynamic. And so, for example, one who looked at me early in my career would have said instantly, this guy is a football player. And so no, I was not surprised when I would, walk around a company or go for an interview, somebody would ask that, oh, well, did you play football? And initially my answer was, of course, yes, I did play, of course. And we were very successful in my college career. But I learned that didn't help me at all. That was just confirming what they already thought. And so what I started to do, my answer started to be, football, that's an interesting question. I was actually captain of the chess team. And it caused people to pause. And as I walked away, I'm sure they said, wait, I don't get that. And so what I started to learn for myself was it was important that I took ownership of changing the dynamic or changing what people were likely thinking to what I wanted them to think, which was the classic, this is a football player, he probably can't be that smart. He probably got into the company because people thought he was a football player and a popular guy that way. And I wanted them to think something very different. And they wouldn't have known about ABC. They wouldn't have known about Dartmouth. You don't wear it on your forehead. And so it was important for me to leave them with something important about me, about, who I was. And so that's, I guess, the single thought, if I could say it's a single thought, is you have to take ownership of branding yourself. You then have to take some ownership of finding and working with a mentor or someone. Don't call it a mentor, call it a sponsor, call it someone who wants to benefit themselves, so wants to see you successful. And that is almost an unnatural, unless it's family, it's almost an unnatural act or deed. And so it takes probably some unnatural skills and talents to develop it.
Interesting. So that leads me into my next question. The kind of impact the A Better Chance program had on your business acumen and your success as an entrepreneur. You talked a little bit about that already in South Africa. So can you expand on that a bit?
I think again, one of the things that you get out of ABC, for those of us that've gone through that program, is a great sense of discipline. Scheduling of study hours and scheduling of various events, whether sporting events or other in the arts. And so I think one of the things that informs you as the hard work and the discipline and that paying off, and that translated for me from ABC to Dartmouth College, and then from Dartmouth College to my experience at Mars Incorporated. And then it's sort of translated as well. And, everything I've done since then, both in terms of community work, volunteer work, as well as anything I've done business-wise since I left Mars. And so I think that foundation that you get out of ABC was, for me anyway, was so important. It stretched me. It gave me a routine, a regimen. It gave me some values about working hard, but then trying to figure out better ways to get work done, get it done faster, efficiently, and effectively.
If you had to speak to one defining moment in your life in which you were able to utilize something that you learned while you were a scholar in the A Better Chance program, what would that be?
Well, one of the things that I found during my time with ABC, and you know, that's a pretty long road. It starts with a summer program where you're spending 6 weeks. And this, in my case, I was at Dartmouth College. And so here I was exposed to all these bright people. And what I learned originally from that program is that these people all came from different parts of the country, something I hadn't been exposed to. I'd really never traveled outside of Florida at that stage in my life. So that exposure, I sort of opened my eyes to not only the U.S. and the opportunities there, but also to the world. And in addition to that, I think the fact that I learned so much from those others, as well as people who were mentors there at the time, gave me a great sense of the importance of mentorship and the importance of other people having an influence in your life.
What had been your educational trajectory up until that point? What had been your experience?
Well, I was quite fortunate. Although my parents, my father only finished 7th grade and my mom only finished 11th grade, they were very much dedicated to education. And in the community where I lived, there were a number of teachers, doctors, dentists, et cetera, that were close by. And so I was exposed at a very early age to education being very important. And so by the time I got to middle school, this was, sort of continued, and the trajectory that I was on and what I've seen is that so many of my friends from that community have been successful over the years. So I have no doubt, no lack of confidence that had I stayed, I would have had some success educationally and in my career.
You mentioned, going abroad and experiences, all over the U.S. Can you think of one particular location that you went to in which you thought about, wow, I can't believe I ended up here?
Yes, I can. So I had a great opportunity. I was fortunate with my career to see so many countries around the world, but probably the one that stuck with me the most was South Africa. We had an opportunity to establish a pet food facility down there. And it was more than just the company putting a facility and becoming established in the community and introducing their brands. It was sort of a connection with the people that were there. And it was something that I hadn't seen any place else. Most of the places we had gone didn't have the extent and penetration of a Black population like South Africa. So here we were doing something in a community that I was very fond of and in a country that I knew not as much about. And so it caused me to want to learn the culture and learn a lot more about the people, in addition to the work that we had to do professionally. I think the advice for that young guy, the young Ellis, would be patient, work hard, continue down a path of discipline, include others in the process. And I think it's some of those values that came from ABC that still keep me, in a sense, grounded, but in a sense supports the levels of achievement or success, if one wants to call it that. And so probably not a day, certainly not a week goes by I don't reconnect with 3 or 4 people that I either colleged with at Dartmouth, which is now over 40 years of having left that school. And so what that says to me, and what I think it says to others, is that there's a quality beyond just social networking. There's a quality of interest in those people, their lives, their successes, that comes back to you. If you, in a sense, pay it forward, but if you give it to them, they give it back to you. And so I learned that, I think, through ABC, that I saw through mentorship, I saw through the advice of people that were a bit senior to me, that was something that I probably need to do myself for others as I went through my life.
How did A Better Chance impact your view of success?
Well, when I entered the program, I had a very short view. It was, for my parents, it was get through high school. And I remember once giving a talk, and it hit me in the moment. I was actually the first person in my family to graduate from high school. My mom hadn't, my father hadn't. I had an older sister that didn't. And so here I was in the moment. And what I think ABC said to me is, okay, and this is looking back now, You did that. And then I have four of the sisters who did that and then went on to college and then went on to get their master's degrees. And it said that what it said to me was not necessarily that I led them down that path or that I was the example, but it said, boy, there are no limits, with education, with a real connection to people, there just really are no limits. And I've just always felt that there's probably nothing that I could not accomplish. I realized that in my career, I wasn't always the smartest guy in the room. I realized that, but hopefully I had enough good questions that allowed people to accept the fact that I can make a contribution. And that, I think that's still true in many circles.
You talked a little bit about mentorship already, but what is, explain a little bit more about what mentorship means to you. I'm sure in your, long career you've had an opportunity to be a mentor, but, what does that mean to you? So
mentorship, I think we sort of use the word, and I almost think we use it a little bit casually without understanding, in a sense, the full complexity of it. And so I've been very fortunate in my, I had clearly mentors through ABC. I mentioned the three women that really, I knew them. I enjoyed being in their company, but as a kid at 13, 14 years old, you don't really know the impact that someone's having on your life. So they took me on, took a chance on me. And then I think about my, my Dartmouth career, but then also my career in business. And the person that hired me became my mentor for the next 25 years. And that person challenged me. That person cursed me. That person, at times made it so difficult for me, but always that person was willing to put their necks on the line for me. At times I didn't even know that was happening. And that, not that alone, but that was at a time. And so there are parts of your career, the early parts where you need something, and then the middle, not that difficult. The end, not the end, but the part where you're trying to get to higher and higher levels in a business or corporation or government, you need people to pull you up. You can only go so far on your intellect and your talents. And that, again, is where I think mentoring pays off. And there's a price. I mean, you have to pay the price of, it's not free to get mentored. You have to invest in not only yourself, but then invest in the person that's mentoring you to ensure that they stay loyal, that they're willing to fight for you and support you. And so I learned a lot of that. I saw that in ABC. A lot of the folks that were tutors and mentors in my summer program were students at Dartmouth. I saw them again when I attended Dartmouth. I see them now. I get emails from them. And our age difference was large then. It was, they were 20 and I was 14. And now we're still only 6 years apart. But 6 years when you're in your 60s is very different than when you're a teenager. So we have very good relationships, very strong relationships that developed, think about it, over 40 years. And I think whether it's 10 years or 20 years, these relationships still are important. And I still take advice from them. I think now it's sort of switched. Not that they take advice, but they do listen. If they think I have something to say, occasionally I do have something good to say.
And how important is it for alums of the A Better Chance program to stay connected to the organization?
Very important. I know that a lot of folks depend on social media, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, et cetera. And those are all important resources. But I truly believe, and maybe it's the era that I grew up, engaged in communities, et cetera. I grew up believing that face-to-face and at worst, phone to phone was an important level of communications. And so communication. So it's still probably my most popular way. I email a lot, I do some Facebook, but my most popular way really is either face-to-face or by phone. And again, as I said earlier, I benefit greatly from hearing someone's voice who's in San Francisco when I'm in Jacksonville, and we talk for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Sometimes we call each other back because we got another point, a counterpoint. And that benefits me greatly. That keeps me sharp, if you will, that they challenge me, that they offer me different thoughts. And I think that's really important for people in the program. Again, I don't think you can do, many of us might consider that you go to a great middle school, you go to a great prep or high school, you go to a great college, and then you find a company, a great company, GE or some other consulting company, and you think because of that and to start with a better chance, that's really all you need. Those talents will just take you right through to the C-suite, right to the top, president, CEO, and then chairman of the board. And unfortunately, they are great starters. They are great. That's a great, great foundation. But that alone isn't sufficient. And the network that you need, it's not enough for people to know you or for you to know other people. It's important that they know you, know your skills, and then be willing to trust that if they invest in you, there will be a payoff.
Well, you touched on networking a little bit. You know how I know that you honed that skill when you were in high school and in college and in your subsequent career. What advice would you give to what advice would you give to current students about the importance of networking and how they have to build those networks early on while they're in the ABC program, while they're in their schools?
High school, middle school, you're very focused on first academics and some extracurricular activities, whatever they might be. And you're focused on friendships. And at the time, those friendships are all very, very benevolent and very, very innocent. And you don't know that when you're at that stage of life that, 10 years down the road, because you've only lived 17, 18. So somehow to add another 10 years is almost impossible for you to fathom. So you have to be either in an environment where that's being reinforced. And I assume, I have to believe, and it certainly was the case for me, that it was being reinforced while I was in high school by the people that I saw who talked about the people that they knew. It was reinforced by the resident family that was in our dorm. And so I assume that students coming through today get that reinforcement, either at their high schools or prep schools, or with families they might visit with on weekends, et cetera. But it's so important that they stay connected. My family does a sort of, not every year, but probably every 2 to 3 years, does a family and friends gathering. We call it Celebration of Friendship. And we invite like 100 people. We've moved around the country a lot, so it's hard to see those people. And the people that we invite are ABC people, my Dartmouth friends, the people I've met in my career, the people I've met in the communities as we moved around the country. And this May, we had 100 people down in Fort Lauderdale. And this year, I had the benefit of reconnecting with about 4 ABC students, ABC colleagues, if you will. 3 of them were at that conference. Another one came through in Jacksonville to visit. So, here we are many, many years later, still very well connected, still learning from each other, benefiting from our family relationships, as well as colleagues. And as different people at different levels of success, but we're all colleagues. It's very egalitarian when we sit down and talk. We're just one big happy family.
Some people think that career success comes from academic stealth. Is that why you have been so successful in business?
I should say yes, but I think I may have said earlier, I don't think that alone is sufficient. So while it's important, it's a great part of your foundation, academic success alone won't give you career success. And I say that alone. I mean, there are other elements that are absolutely important, because you can be absolutely top of the class, but not necessarily be the right leader of a group of people to actually achieve at the highest levels. You may not get the opportunity unless you build a strong core value system. I've been fortunate that ABC gave me that, Dartmouth gave me that, and that the company that I joined, I absolutely believe I found the right company. It's not just a matter of my personal talent or academic success. I found the right company. It had the right values and the right principles. I didn't know what those were when I started, but when I learned what they were, they became my own. And they still remain very core to how I think about when I go into other businesses.
If you were branding yourself, what would you say your brand would be?
It's interesting. It's a very interesting question, because I sort of think it is an answer that works for people who have built a career, but I think it also works for people who are starting a career, people that are coming out of a better chance. Again, you're trying to, in a sense, distinguish yourself. You want to try to find a way to ensure that you are different. And so in my case, I wouldn't have known this day one of my career, but as I started to grow in business and to have different opportunities, different career changes, what I started to realize is that looking back, my career and probably the brand that fits me best is I'm a builder. And people ask specific questions if they look at a resume or my business profile about, oh, geez, it looks like you built a factory somewhere. Sure, yeah, I built a factory, but I also feel important to say, I built some organizations in different countries. I built some leadership teams. Yes, I built some brands, and yes, I did build some facilities. I didn't personally, but through the team of people that I worked with, through the, my leadership, the leadership of the company, we're able to have success in doing that. So, yeah, I think when I listen to guys like Russell Simmons and Jay-Z and so on, they're very clear. You have to distinguish yourself by building a brand or becoming a brand. And I think in my case, the people that look to me today they say, wow, this guy can assemble things. He's he takes abstract things and constructs them into something that we can visibly see as a possibility. And that to me is an important aspect of what I do. There will be others that are great financial wizards or great marketing wizards. I've done a bit of all of them, but the one thing that I think at 30,000 feet probably is most descriptive is the word builder.
How can A Better Chance continue to transform education for subsequent generations? I'll leave you with a heavy one.
A Better Chance has been such an impactful part of my life. I think I said early on that I think I might have had some academic success, maybe even without ABC. But what I would not have had were the doors that have been open to me, that the opportunities that have been open to me. My eyes have been open completely in terms of what goes on around the country and around the world. And so I have no doubt that ABC for the next 25, next 50 years will continue. And I was fortunate to be a part of a celebration at Dartmouth in Hanover, New Hampshire last year, which was celebrating the 50th anniversary of A Better Chance having started at Dartmouth. And one of the questions that came out of that forum was, it was more than just a celebration of the 50 years. It was, okay, what do we do for the next 50? And there is a, sort of an acknowledgement that I will continue to give to ABC. We will all give to ABC our time, efforts, and hopefully, our money. But there probably are some limitations at the end of the day in terms of the number of high schools, the number of prep schools. And there are a huge number of students that are in communities that need ABC and more. And we have to continue to think about, I don't have the answer to what that is yet, but I have to say that I'm a part of a panel of people that are considering and thinking about, how do we take what we've learned from ABC? How do we continue to support ABC and everything it does and is doing? And how do we also bring into the tent all the people that perhaps there's not room for yet in ABC? And how do we either expand it to create more room, or how do we find ways to bring them in? And it will continue to be a challenge, but it's an absolutely critical need for the country, for those communities of people that are perhaps underserved, or in communities where the educational systems won't give them the best opportunity to succeed in life.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up with all the questions. Thank you, Ellis. It was nice virtually speaking to you, and you enjoy your day.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.